Welcome back to another episode of Beekeeping Buddies. I'm Steven.
And I'm Luke.
Oh, it's been hot and dry.
It's super dry. It's unusually hot, unusually dry. And even at night, it's still getting down to 50s-ish.
It's getting down to the 50s, but, sunny and 85, 87.
I think it was 88 today here.
And it's been dry, though. The humidity's low, but then I was looking at we were supposed to have a pretty good amount of rain last week, and it didn't. At my house, I got like a quarter of an inch out of, I think they forecast for almost 2 across 4 or 5 days. Yeah. And I got a quarter of an inch instead of 2. And we really could have used the 2 inches for some fall golden nectar sources.
Yeah. The goldenrod is producing. It's my hives smell of it, but it's not the same stink that I've had in other years.
Yeah.
So they are putting on weight. All of my hives are putting on weight, but it's not as much as I'd expect. But I don't really expect goldenrod to produce anymore, just because it's the Midwest and it's missed so many seasons. I have to build in you're not going to work.
So all late summer, there was a bushy-looking weed that's been growing, and it's been green. And in the last 2 weeks, it's popped out this bright little white, tiny flower. And so from a 15-foot view, it just sort of looks like a white, bushy flower. And it's pretty bushy, right? Like, we were out moving fence around for the goats, and it's all along right where the field, before the field gets into the shade.
Yeah.
That's not actually plowed. Yeah. Where you get your goldenrod. So it's all mixed in with the goldenrod. And we were running fence along it and through it. And there was a patch that's probably 15 foot deep between the tree line and the corn. And it is waist high. We were standing out there, and there was an audible buzz from all of the pollinators that were out there working that little white flower. I don't know what it was. I didn't do the little identify my plant thing on the phone.
Yeah. Interesting. The only one I can think of that's white, that's waist high right now, is buckwheat. But you know what buckwheat looks like.
I think I do, but this is not, I would not have classified that as this.
Buckwheat's kind of stringy, tall looking thing. These are small bushes, huh?
It's not stringy, goldenrod's like a one, thumb-sized stalk that sticks up, and then it's got this little wig of wheats.
Yeah,
fuzzy golden wheat sprigs at the top, a half a dozen sprigs. And this is more like a little teeny tiny bush, but it's kind of weedy. But it's not grassy. It's more bushy.
Probably invasive.
It's taken over all that space. The waterway that's all dry.
Okay.
Down by the creek.
Yeah.
All the stuff my neighbor cleared on his property.
Yep.
All that area has naturally regrew with all of that. And so that entire area is kind of a goldenrod white, bushy flower stuff. So all the bees are working that real hard. In terms of how the hives are looking, I haven't had the concern this year as I've had in the past with missing queens. We talked about having some extras, and then this is one of the first years where I haven't found myself going, man, I wish I had a couple extra queens when the year I've had them. So.
I know, and yeah, we've got extras still. I still have extras, and I went through and looked at them today, and some of those extras are super strong, strong little colonies.
Yeah, and so now I'm guess I'm going to do some sort of 6/6, 4/4 Palmer nuke, this type of thing to.
Yeah, because I can't get them through.
Yeah, I mean, I don't just want to roll some, pinch some queens just because. I'm I might as well give them a shot at making it through winter. Because if not, then there'll be good colonies for spring, and I typically always have dead outs over winter. So
yeah, I think there's a couple that I'll probably pinch the queens on that are just kind of limping along, and I found that the ones that are limping along this year can make it through winter sometimes.
Yeah,
but they don't do anything. They limp along. We don't make it through winter, and then they just continue to limp along. So I might pinch a couple, but out of 70 right now, I might pinch like 4, which is way better numbers than I've ever seen. So I'm unusually optimistic, and I will. Steve knows me, and other people have known me. I'm usually really pessimistic this time of year.
Yep.
I'm waiting for the other shoe to fall, and I think a lot of it is I've been really have a team, and we've been really on top of varroa mite treatments, and we've used varroa the sponges. Although I do think my hives with like 2 sponges in them have been too much. 1 sponge is a much better, and maybe it's because my dosage is wonky. But I don't know. I've been real happy with a lot of my hives this year. I did try. I've got one out my window so that on like days I don't want to go out and stuff, I can sit there and watch the bees come and go. I had one there years ago, and it got really mean, and I had to put it down.
Yeah. But
this one is there. They're pretty nice, and they're putting some honey away. It is a interesting mix of goldenrod and mint. It is not a good mix.
He's got a giant swath of mint that surrounds his back patio.
Yeah, I've got chocolate. I've got a couple types in there: apple and chocolate and spearmint, and it's all done blooming. But that flavor combination, is not something I would suggest for folks. Although I do got some, I did extract off of buckwheat.
Oh yeah,
and the buckwheat, I know people don't like buckwheat, but man, it's one of my favorites. Is probably like spring.
Yeah,
and then buckwheat is close behind. Like if I want something that's got some real robust flavor.
We should have done a honey tasting before the show, so we could talk about some honey notes again.
Yeah, well, I've got some, and I don't have very much of it this year. I only have
very much, sir. You had like 30 pounds.
Yeah, I
only have 30 pounds.
I only have 30 pounds.
You only have one 5-gallon bucket.
It's only partially full, right? But it's not as. This was the test year with that location. I put 6 hives out there. I put 4 of them, which were iffy, that needed some weight, and so I thought I'd put them out on a property that they could gain some weight on, and then the other 2, I put supers on top, and I extracted basically a super full off of them, and I'm gonna pull it off October 15th, which is our frost date.
Yeah,
and we'll pull them out of there by then, and see. They're all without supers on there have enough weight to go through winter. So I'll probably just knock all supers out and see where it goes from there.
So what you're saying is you got more to come.
I got more to come. It's the longer I wait, the more they go to goldenrod flavors.
Oh yeah.
So the buckwheat, like the pure buckwheat, I've already pulled. This will be like a buckwheat goldenrod mix, and it may be okay, but we'll see.
It sounds like you were making up some sugar patties, some candy boards. What do you call them?
Yeah, candy boards. Krabby Patties is what the Master Beekeeping course calls them. They call them Krabby Patties, and yeah. So I made some of those up today, like 20 of them.
Now, what's your recipe?
It's basically 10% protein, and then the rest is going to be sugar. So I'll post the specific recipe in the show notes. But the 10% protein is so that they continue to produce a small amount of royal jelly, right? Because the workers have to have a protein source to produce royal jelly. And that's going to be from just a bee feed. It's Man Lakes, I think, is the one I use. And so I mix it all together and then add water to it till it's like thick enough to kind of Play-Doh, not quite Play-Doh consistency.
So you're adding sugar water, straight water, or honey?
So I don't use honey. I just use water, sugar, and protein.
And no apple cider vinegar or Honeybee Healthy?
You're right. None of those. Those are not in there. I'm just keeping it simple, and they dry out into blocks anyway. If they don't get to them, So I'll put a slit down the bottom of a Ziploc bag, and then I have 2 sticks that I'll put over on top to give some bee space so they can access up over the top of frames.
So you're loading this into 1 gallon Ziploc bags?
Yeah. And then I have spacers.
You put about a pound in there?
It's about 3 cups, 4 cups worth. It's enough to fill a Ziploc bag. When you lay it down, it'll sit flat and it'll be maybe 3/4 of an inch tall. So when you put a spacer feeder on top, it has a little space there. And this recipe is the first time I've found a recipe that has numbers that I like. Usually I've made my own, and I think I go too light on the protein. So if you go too heavy on the protein, you get heavily nosemid hives. And if you go too light on the protein, you get hives that kind of sputter out. So this 10% protein is, I think, a good. I think the study that was done on this was this is the optimal amount of protein that you want. And then the professor that taught this had the other protein levels for pollen for other seasons. And so when we get into late winter, early spring, really realistically early spring, I'll probably feed a slightly different pollen patty mix to them. I'll pull these off and reconsolidate and feed a different mix.
So are you planning to put this on everybody or just ones that need some extra help?
Just ones that need some extra help. I think I have 20 hives that I've counted so far that I'm certain need a little love, and I'll put it on those. But outside of that, I'll leave. I've gone through and weighed just a hand weighing of the hives, lift the back, and then you can double the weight roughly, and that should be the weight. You
using a suitcase scale or anything official, or are you just kind of eyeballing it?
I eyeball it now. I used to use a game scale with a stick. So like game scale's got the little hook on it.
The hook, yeah.
Yeah, and you just hold the stick and you pull it up, and as soon as it comes off of the back of the stand, then you're like, yep, that's my weight, and call it good.
What's your number for doing that?
35 pounds. So that means it's about a 70-pound hive, which means it's got about 30 to 40 pounds of honey in it.
Yeah, that's where I'd put it.
Yeah, and so you can do it once you've done it enough times. You can feel it and go, "This is light," or "This is too heavy." It varies too. Styrofoam is surprisingly a noticeable amount lighter than the wood. So you have to know what you're picking up and adjust for that. The other thing that happens is that your hive will stick to your stands after they've been sitting there for a while. And if you don't pop it free, right, when you're lifting this and like actually lift it up and you go, oh no, it's heavy, that's enough. You're just weighing the stand. You're not actually weighing the hive. So that's a gotcha that I've seen happen. Actually, that happened with one of my guys today. And it takes a little bit of a feel to get used to, like anything. The other thing that we're doing, at least in the apiary, is consolidating my 3-frame, 5-frame hives into hives that will make it through the winter. I know that there's a guy further south of us that swears, and he overwinters 3-frame nukes. Have you seen? You haven't seen his posts.
No.
He consistently says he has a bunch of 3-frame nukes that are all stuck together, sitting right next to each other, that he feeds and gets through winter. I'm tempted.
How far south?
Just north of St. Louis, I believe, is where he is. So,
I mean, that's not Mississippi. That's not Alabama coast.
No, it's still Illinois. So, and he says that he has a bunch of 3-frame nukes that he overwinters that way. I'm tempted to. I have 3-frame nukes that have feeding ports in them, and I'm tempted to pack the feeding ports with this feed.
I can't imagine that's gonna sustain a 3-frame nuke for all winter, though.
No, I think you have to go back in every couple months and recheck. And realistically, I go in whenever it turns like 50 degrees, I pop lids anyway and see where the bees are. But it's got to be over 50 degrees for me to do that.
Sunny, yeah.
Yeah, sunny and 50. Otherwise, you're just dumping heat.
Speaking of, presumably the only reason why you were doing that is so that you've got some colonies to replace losses with in spring. Maybe they build quick, but another way to do that is if you were to find a good nuke supplier.
Yep.
I happen to know a guy.
Yeah, me too.
How was the reception from the people that we sold our nukes to at this point in the year from the spring?
Good. And yeah, the main takeaway was they did really well. The ones that I put in, I was really happy with.
I was surprised. It seemed like almost 50% of them failed to move to a large enough space quick enough and ended up either having to be split and or swarmed on the people that bought them.
Yes.
And then depending on how they requeened after the swarm, that could have potentially set them back. So there was some misgivings about failure to understand how strong a colonies they got.
Yeah. There was quite a bit of, hey, when do I put these in? And I was like, now. And then there was, when do I give them more space? And I was like, and for some of the colonies, they needed space
Immediately.
Yeah. Like put a second box on.
Yes.
There was a lot of folks, I agree with you. There's a lot of folks that didn't understand the space requirements for new hatching. Like the frames were laid up.
Yeah.
And
there was completely solid full.
Yeah.
And
they didn't have queen cells. It wasn't an issue of hey, they're queen cells. But yeah, it's an issue of staying ahead of the bees. And that time of year, it's kind of hard to stay ahead of the bees. Now,
if you're not used to it, if you're a beginner, if you're getting that as a beginner, it was really hard to communicate the difference that, if there's their second year and they bought a package their first year, they're not going to act like your average package, right? Like you're so far ahead of your average package. But it's sort of the point is, we're going to do it again next year. So if you're out there in the Midwest area and you want to make the drive, we're not shipping anything. Let us know. We brought in about 50 last year.
Yep. Depends on our orders. If we can bring in more, we'll bring in more. But if we can't, then
I'd like to. It would make the economics of the trip much more reasonable.
Yeah.
It was a break-even affair this year for us, but starting out, I think that's to be expected in any kind of business venture.
Right.
But the point is, the results that we got out of it suggest that we should continue to do it in the future.
There was a couple of them that I did treat pretty early for mites, and that's kind of and I kept all of those ones that I treated early for mites.
Yep.
And they've done just fine. I've stayed on top of my mites this year. They've done super well. So I have no complaints on any of the ones that I kept. I plan on doing it again.
Well, it seems like there's, if you're a person that buys packages, we bring in several hundred packages into the area every spring.
Yeah.
I still feel like there's definitely a market to get a better product than a 3-pound package.
Yeah,
so.
I agree.
Speaking of varroa mite treatments, I guess we missed some exciting news that was announced back in May, but apparently officialized here in September.
Yeah, we got it in the news. Our news segment has actually really interesting, kind of important news.
A development.
The other interesting thing about it is that usually I get emailed and or messaged 4 or 5, maybe 6 times of, hey, did you see this article? I don't
think it was well published given the current administration and our current events.
Could be. And
the current leadership of the EPA is not the leadership that it was a year ago, and therefore
yeah, but still, you think that the news outlets would hop on this?
There's been a lot of other things that they're much more interested in talking about right now, which are not bee related.
I don't know. I always like talking about bees.
We're not going to talk about those.
No.
But in the varroa mite treatment news, they have approved a new. It's a fancy RNA treatment.
Well, it's a dsRNA treatment.
There you go.
It's called Vandescona, and it specifically attaches. Well, you feed it through the bees through sugar water syrup, which I think is interesting. So our treatment window is going to be spring and/or.
I mean, just about any time you want to put out feed.
Yeah, anytime that you'd have to feed. So fall would be actually a decent time for treatment.
Or summer, like late after the spring flow.
Yeah, during a dearth.
August is when, you're hitting peak mite. When you want to get ahead of your mite curve in August is an ideal time that they will actually take feed as opposed to spring.
Right.
So it's not a spring treatment. It's
still pull off your supers for it.
So the DS is double-stranded RNA.
Yeah. So it affects the calmodulin gene in the varroa mites, which is the one that helps them reproduce. So it makes them sterile.
So you feed it to the bees. The bees then have this thing hanging around in their fat body.
Yep.
And then the mites bite them, and then they start feeding on the bee body, and that makes its way into the mite. And then the mite, I guess, becomes sterile.
Yep, becomes sterile, so then they don't reproduce. So then
your mite population doesn't grow.
Yep.
Now, we still have some, but...
yeah. It'd be interesting. There's a couple of things that I have concerns about. One is, does it make mites that then adjust that gene so that it no longer affects them? Right? Are we just doing a really sped up Darwin shot at them, and then we have a bunch of it's super effective year one, and then year two?
Because I don't think a modification, because it's that takes a fundamental modification of their reproductive system in order to be able to work around the absence of however that Vandescona is actually acting on them, right?
Yeah,
like
Vandescona
is actually acting on them, right? So it's like the velociraptors, right? Like the lysine contingency.
Yeah,
it's going to take them a while to figure out how to
That'd
work
be
around
good.
that.
If it did happen that way, what would be really good is that if it also affected tropy mites.
Tropy mites, yeah.
And those are the mites that are currently over in Asia, and they just found them over in some areas of not USSR but old USSR and Europe area. So those are scary for me. Those are more scary than the varroa mites. Varroa mites we kind of have the tools to deal with. These tropy mites are not. We don't. And from my understanding, the Canadian government, this is not one that Steve and I talked about, but the Canadian government has vetoed bringing in bees from the United States. So Canada, if you're bringing in bees, you will be bringing them in from Europe, which is where the tropy mite is. So
this article also talked about how they were also looking at 2 additional treatments, including an glutamic acid, so basically another organic acid treatment, as well as a long, slow release oxalic acid, and that was approved back in July, which we knew from our pads.
Yeah, I've seen actually some postings on like beginner beekeeper area on Facebook that talk about those strips. And people pull the screen bottom board out, and it's got piles, like sawdust piles of the Varroxan strips.
Yeah.
And that's pretty interesting to see them chew up and spread that Varroxan, the oxalic acid in that Varroxan through the thing.
So apparently this is potentially 3 or 4 new avenues for us to use to mix up our mite treatments to... if you're one to want not to put, RNA treatments into the bees, or if you don't like your oxalic acid, sounds like there's a couple other options out there. To still maintain some control over your mites.
The other interesting bit of news that I didn't print out that just brought to mind was the almonds numbers were brought in from California, like bumper crop of almonds, even though we had low numbers of bees available. And from the article that I read on it was that the guys...
Seems counterintuitive.
It does. But what ended up happening, I think, and this is from a source, so it's not directly from me, but it's something I read, that said basically the people that didn't get the bees that they were supposed to get were people that didn't pay their bills in the past anyway, so the beekeepers chose to send them to other people that would pay their bills. And so, yes, we were short bees and packages. However, the people that ended up getting shorter at the end were the guys that weren't paying the almond bills anyway for pollination services. So maybe it was a good season for them, right? I didn't hear about any major flooding out in California.
Yeah, maybe the people that weren't paying previously weren't good producers previously, and therefore the fact that they were missing out didn't really negatively impact their poor production even more.
Yeah, I don't know. But the news, that's the news that I just read. It was in the ABJ. And there's a pretty interesting article there by Charles Linden. He's Chuck. I'll actually probably get to see him again at the Illinois State Beekeeping Conference for the fall conference.
We have a fall conference?
We do. That's going to be...
in the news. Oh, wait. In the news / droning on.
You won't cover it then.
Honeybee Hotline is where we answer questions that we get from various people, and people send us, people ask us, and like every other week, we have more questions.
Yeah. So the main question, I got a lot of reports on robbing this year. And by a lot, I mean 7 questions from 7 different folks that all ask me about, hey, what do I do about robbing?
Have you seen a lot of robbing in your hives this year?
Not until today when I was moving. So I moved a hive that was too big for its britches, and I moved it into a double 6/6. And they were short 6 frames. So I pulled apart a dead hive that I had that had some stores in it. And as soon as I opened it and pulled that out and got things sorted and moved over, I had crazy aggressive robbing from some hives.
I've been meaning to go through. I was looking at the hives this weekend. I was watching entrances. I haven't really cracked lids in a week or so. And I was really noting that I probably should put some entrance reducers on because they're still wide open for me. And the number of flyers that I had did not seem to justify there was a couple of them that were clearly looked like they were struggling to defend an entire 20 inches of opening as opposed to, 2 inches.
Yeah. And so all of my hives, I can't say all. I have like 2 or 3 that don't. But most of my hives have mouse guards on them right now. And the mouse guards I use are the little L brackets with holes drilled in them. Yeah. They do a pretty good job of defending that.
Yeah, but holes. That's essentially it's an over 50% restriction on the entrance, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I leave those on all year. Like in summer, those are still on. Yeah. I don't see a reduction in my honey production when that happens.
No, but the reality is when we're doing cutouts, right, the holes in the side of the house are no bigger than your thumb.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the idea that you need to have this giant opening, like I think it helps with some ventilation in the hot summer, but the reality is, certainly I've seen the difference in traffic if you have a big hive.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think they'll work fine out of a thumb-sized opening.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, because on my project we looked at hives at night. I looked at hives at night with my FLIR, so you can actually see the hot input and the hot and the cold, or the hot output and the cold input on a hive of when they have an input and output side. So anyway, overall point here for the rambling is entrance reducers are on. I think that reduces. I'm relatively certain that reduces the number of robbing attempts that I have. And although the people that we talked to said, nope, they had entrance reducers on, still got robbed out. So my emergency treatment suggestion for them, and what I do on mine, if I do get robbing events like that started, is I throw a sprinkler on the hive. So that it's hitting around the hive. Not the shooty spray sprinklers, but like the ones when you were a kid and it shot up
rainbow
mist.
back and forth.
The mist, the ones that misted when you were a kid. Those are the sprinklers I throw out on my hives if there's bad robbing. And that will knock down the numbers. Now, will it kill some bees? Maybe.
I don't think so.
I think they avoid it, but they largely it just makes the entrance more defendable. Like the ones that are really determined are going to try to get in.
They don't want to fly through it. So
yeah, so the sprinklers is the one that I haven't seen a lot of repeated, but I think I've used it and it worked for me. But you have to get to it early, because otherwise, if it's a small struggling hive and it's getting robbed out, they're not going to defend it. It's going to get robbed out, and you're just SOL.
Do you have a dedicated water source that you maintain?
No, I'm on the river.
You're on the river?
Yeah.
I've got my livestock feeder, my livestock waterer.
Yeah.
And for like the past month, there has been, I got some video I need to show you after we're done here. There's a fairly consistent line of girls that line probably 25% of the rim of my 50-gallon livestock water, and a steady stream of girls coming and going.
Really?
Yeah.
I know that they really like to drink the water off of the lid for the coal. I'm sure it's super good for them. The lid for the coal, because Dad's a blacksmith,
yeah,
and he really enjoys watching them drink the water down. Like when it rains, and that rainwater sits up there.
So for everybody who's listening and doesn't understand, he keeps his coal in a 250-gallon IBC tote.
Yeah.
So the lid that's on top of that, which I think is just the plastic tote top, that he's cut off, but he sets on top to keep it out of the rain or whatever, and then because of that, it'll collect water.
Yeah, and the bees will chase that down as it evaporates and / they drink it. The other thing is that every once in a while he'll have a forge sitting outside that'll get water in its quenching area. There's a quench area usually for the forges, and they'll actively go drink that down too. I do open feed this time of year, and they still will take down about 125-pound bag mix of sugar mixed, and it takes maybe an hour for them to take all that down to 0. And for the rest of the day, they'll come and lick up what
check out bits. If there's more.
Yeah. So that's this time of year, feeding, making sure they're up to weight. If they're up to weight, should be fine. If they're not, you need to feed. But that actually drifted way away from our Honeybee Hotline, which is, what do I do? There's a couple of questions. One was, what do I do? So I think we answered that one.
Yep.
The other one was, say I have a hive that got robbed out in a location. It's sitting in that location. It's robbed out. It's done. I have a different hive that I need to move. When can I put a new hive back in that location? How long do I have to wait?
I don't know that I've ever considered a time frame that you should have to wait. Usually, if I've moved a hive out of a location, and it's been during the day where there's foragers returning. There's sort of a cloud of bees that'll sort of linger in the area. If there's not something within 3 feet for them to move to, by the first evening, right, they've figured out some place to go, and the next day I'll set a hive where the old one was.
Yeah, so that was my answer. I said, to be safe, I said wait 2 or 3 days. So they said that they put a new hive back there, and it was immediate. The new hive that they put in there also was immediately robbed out. So
I don't think it has anything to do with physical location.
So I wonder if it's a hive strength issue, not a location issue.
Again, I think that goes back to your entrance size, right? If it's something defendable, then you're not going to have an issue, and if it's something they can't defend, you'll have an issue.
So they're saying still they had
fundamentally a hive strength issue, is what you're saying. It's the
though,
same way of saying the same
hive,
thing.
Even though they had hive reducers on, and I think even with hive reducers, if you don't have a strong enough hive, they're going to get robbed unless you're way more careful.
Yeah, I mean,
and if you
fall reducer of 4 inch versus winter of just an inch. I think you just keep choking it down, right? Like you get down to that winter 1 inch, and a 5-frame nuke should be able to defend itself.
Yeah. So the nuke entrances are you can stick your pinky in it. I can stick my pinky in it, right? Much more, not that I would, but
like an entrance that should be guardable by like 4 bees, 4 guards.
Yeah, I
think is.
So I would choke everything down. If I had robbing, the first thing I do is choke it down to that, and then see if they'll fight it off. And if they can't, then sprinkler. And if they can't, then that hive's probably gone already.
I was to say it's probably something that's worth saving.
Right. So, but yeah, lots of people struggling out there with robbing this year. So probably to do with how
dry it is.
Yeah, how dry it is.
Droning On is our segment where we talk about what we're going to be doing in the next 2 weeks. I don't know if this is exactly the next 2 weeks, but it's sort of the upcoming fall season.
Yeah.
How many fall festival, craft show,
fall?
What is that category of event that you want to call that generically?
Fall festivals.
Fall festivals?
Yeah.
How many fall festivals are you signed up for, sir?
I'm only signed up for 2.
2?
Yep.
That is a shockingly low number,
It
sir.
is. Well, and I haven't had any requests to be signed up for more than that. I'm signed up for 2. One is across the street from this Schmidt Farms.
What?
Norwood Elementary. And it's not for very long, 8 till 1. So it's an interesting time frame. And then the other one is the Chillicothe Public Library, which will be this Thursday, because I'll get this posted by Wednesday.
No Christmas shows, no...
Christmas is winter, and I'll be back at the Christmas Village out in...
Because I recall you being at one where the wife was all bundled up underneath the quilts.
Absolutely. Yep, that's the Christmas Village. It has a ton of foot traffic.
Yeah.
And... really good event. It's really does. They put a lot of money back towards the museum and towards some children's foundations.
When do you start thinking about what you might, if you're putting together like giveaway gift totes, candles or other bee products? When do you start thinking about what you're going to do and who you're going to do? And
yeah, right now is when I start thinking about those and putting them together so that I'm not panicked when it comes into like November timeframe. November is actually when people really start asking for them because of Thanksgiving. And I mean, what's better than like homemade biscuits and a bottle of honey around the table for Thanksgiving, right?
Plus, I always like to have the candles.
Yeah, and the candles are nice. And so I'll probably this year I have a bunch of wax foundation still that I had inherited / bought with other stuff, and I don't use very much of it. I'll probably hit that with a heat gun and roll those up into candles, which I've seen done. Those sell pretty well, and they have the nice texture of the
honeycomb
on them. And then I made a bunch of. I've got some twists. The twists sell really well, and then the votives, and then the votives sell okay. It's the tapers.
Twist is a taper that's got a twist to it.
Yeah.
But it's basically just a taper candle.
And then my 10-inch tapers probably sell the best.
Yep.
Out of a 1 pound block of wax for those, I can make 6 tapers and 4 twists.
Are you going to do some hand lotions, lip balms?
Yeah, I have lip balms I make all year. They don't really pick up until right about now. And the hand lotions I also make, I'm thinking about getting rid of them. The issue with them is that my recipe lasts so long that people don't reorder. So like they order like one for 4 or 5 months. And
You mean it's such a large quantity?
no, it's a 3-ounce container, but it just doesn't take much to spread on to moisturize. So even my mom, who by the way may or may not listen to this, but sometimes listens, she has a quantity and she's been using it for 8 months or so, right? And still
that sounds
not
like
to the bottom of it.
Once a year? I mean, that sounds like they need to order another one.
Yeah, once a year. Yeah, that's about usually when I get orders, is once a year. The honeysuckle is one of those that sells the best. You have a rose one that's seasonal. I have a peppermint one that's seasonal. So not the pepper one. I can't imagine putting on chapped hands, but I can imagine Christmassy. That's a good Christmassy one. So yeah, I'll start making those now. And then I have some hexagon bottles that I etch, and then I will probably sell some of those hexagon bottles because I have way more of them than I sell.
I was going to say, you mean you're going to sell them just as containers as opposed to putting honey product in them?
Just as containers for any other beekeepers out there. I may or may not put them on Amazon. We'll see how it goes. I'm not a big fan of Amazon right now. They're kind of, as a small business owner, they're pretty painful to do business with. Even though they say, hey, no, most of our members are small business owners. They really lean towards the big guys. That's something I'll have right now. We're working on getting a bottled lemonade honey lemonade.
A honey lemonade? Now, I haven't heard about this.
Yeah. I've been working with Blackbeard Canning. And Blackbeard Canning makes hot sauces. All of his hot sauces use my honey. And I told him, hey, so he's got a certified kitchen and all of that stuff. And I'm like, I have a recipe for honey lemonade, and I would like bottles of it. And I don't know how much it'll cost, but why don't you work with me, because you have all the certified kitchen stuff for it, and figure out how to make this for a drink that I can sell. I don't have a good price point for it, because honey lemonade would cost I think it'd be like $6 a bottle, which is pretty expensive for like a 12-ounce, like a Grolsch.
Yeah,
but it's pretty fantastic stuff. I don't have good line of sight to that, of how to make that sell well with my honey. Like, you can always buy the $2.60 honey, right? And sell it like that. But
well, I mean, is it really gonna be significantly impacted by the delicate flavors of some of the unique honeys that you have?
It is pretty heavily impacted by goldenrod honey. It is not my favorite.
but that's also a fairly stark profile difference from flavor profile difference from your average spring honey, though.
Yeah, but it's also the argument too, right? Of, hey, am I a small, like, high end, this is always my honey seller, or am I a honey distributor, or where am I picking up my honey to resell? And maybe for something like honey lemonade, it's just I denote this is not mine, but this is honey lemonade and this is my recipe.
Yeah, your recipe, and you also have to. I think there's opportunity there to have a price point, 2 different price points.
Oh, like a local small batch, and then like a larger.
I mean, if you want to market it that way, not that you're going to sell the other one in the supermarket, right? Like you're not at that kind of volume.
No.
But the real question is whether or not the locally sourced honey version will be, 50% or 100% considered to be 50% or 100% better than the product that
local honey. You're right.
Yeah, is made out of a bulk wholesale honey. Sure.
Yeah, and then the other part of it is like how do you process a 50-gallon drum, right? That's the size that you're ordering at when you get $2.50. Is that you're ordering a drum of honey or multiple drums of honey. Unloading them is not an issue, right? I have an unloading dock available to me, but it's something I'm kicking around. And maybe I have enough honey this year that shouldn't be something I'm worried about. I just need to worry about getting my honey through, right? This year was kind of a large crop for me, and maybe I just need to worry about getting that through rather than worrying about getting my.
How many other products you can bring into the.
Sure. I just like it because for stuff like the Chillicothe library, that for that market, right? There's not really good other drinks out there. And the honey lemonade's so good and refreshing that it doesn't take much. Like I make it for me at home, and it's not more than a single glass, and I'm good.
Yeah.
So I really wanted something for a market like that, and I think that during the summer it would be really good for the riverfront market, that kind of stuff. And you could probably reduce the price if it was, hey, here's the bottle. You give me the bottle back, and I'll wash and recycle them. And here's a cup with ice. You can pour it and give me the bottle back. So it's something to think about. There's lots of products out there. I mean, we talked about propolis last time. Maybe I need to be harvesting propolis. I don't know.
You going to put your propolis trap on this year?
No, not this year. I've got them. They're in a tub outside. We've got things like cutouts that we have to do instead.
Oh man! Like you mentioned that. So, for the listeners here at the end of the show, you've waited for the hidden gem. We had to cut out an apartment, and it just kind of hit at an odd time. We kind of did the whole buddy, hey, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I know you don't want to do it, but we got to do it. So we both showed up real enthusiastic about doing this cutout. And we climbed up there, and I cut the soffit open, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing to be found.
Still bees coming and going.
Yeah. I was standing there on a ladder, and the bees are just flying in, landing.
And disappearing down over the edge of this
and so
brick.
you can see him crawl, so now instead of a little pinky-sized hole underneath the trim where the trim meets the brickwork, there's now a 2-foot hole in the side of the soffit where this piece of 1x12 trim was.
Yep.
And they're completely ignoring the fact that there's this gigantic hole in the side of the building now. Yeah. And they're landing on this edge of the brick, and they're crawling up around the corner of the brick and disappearing behind the wall.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, are they climbing left or right? Are they moving along the top of the wall or just behind the wall to an adjacent spot? And we look with flashlights. We look with thermal camos. I have an endoscope, camera that I can fish on the end of a little shaft. We fished that left. We fished it right. We fished it up. We fished it down. Couldn't find anything.
Yeah. And now you can see them. They wander off somewhere.
It's not like they're just hanging out, right? This is not just a 2s and 3s, and they just decided to move. These are girls landing with pollen on.
Yep. So
they're bringing in a hive.
Which
right?
means they're feeding.
Yeah,
brood.
They're feeding brood. So this is an active working colony somewhere.
Yeah.
And this is the first time where I've cut a hole in the wall on an active flying entrance, and you pulled the panel off, and there was just absolutely nothing, no evidence of where the bees were going or like had been there and like had been sprayed. We just did one in a soffit of a house, and it was just a pile of black gunk.
Yeah.
It was just gooey and slimy, and like it was clearly evident that it had been. We used to be a hive, but now it was just garbage.
That was the previous one that we did.
But the point was,
this one's not.
There was clear evidence that there was something that was there.
Yeah.
And there's no wax tracks. There's no nothing. No.
Yeah. On this one, I can't.
Like
I checked down below the floor. Like, so it's on the second row. It's on the second level floor is where the entrance is, and I checked all down the wall, down to the first level floor. Don't see them anywhere. And then I made another follow up.
So we told the apartment with the management, the people that were like, "Hey, the best our guess is they're crawling down and they've inhabited the wall behind the brick, which means we got to go in through the drywall of the apartment unit."
Yeah.
And of course, with apartments, you got to give notice and give them time. And so we came back and did the FLIR thing from inside the drywall. And to put this in perspective, we just did a week before that, we just did a cutout in a 1920s 2-story bungalow with plaster and lath, and this was in the northwest corner of the house, and they were coming in a hole in the siding. It was stucco, and the hole was there from where they had brought the power into the house. They had connected the attachment point for the power anchor, and that had been moved sometime in the past, and when they did that, they had just left the hole right in through the stucco. And so it was a thumb-sized hole right through the stucco into the stud cavity, and there was nothing, absolutely no insulation or anything in there. And so I had to cut through the plaster and then cut through the lath. And prior to starting, we stood there with the thermal. And if nobody's looked at a thermal image on a thermal imaging camera, the cameras these days, they sort of auto range to whatever the background temperature is. So if you're looking at a wall in a house, it'll sort of auto range the color to the 70 degrees of the house to be sort of a greenish, bluish hue. And then it changes the color of whatever it's seeing. So the higher the temperature, it'll move from that green to a yellowish to an orangish to a red to a white. And so whatever the temperature difference there is, it sort of ranges that color scale into whatever temperature difference you have. And so if your only temperature difference is only like 5 degrees, it'll still show up as a bright red. It's the classic put a handprint up against the wall for a couple minutes, for a couple seconds, then pull your hand away. You'll see the red handprint there, even though it's only like a half a degree warmer than the wall. The point is it scales it. So this is a bright red spot that is 2 feet wide and 3.5 feet tall. 2 feet wide, 16 inches wide, and nearly 3 feet tall, all the way down to the baseboard. And clear as day. I mean, you look left, you look right. It's all green wall except for this one spot. It's bright red, and that was through the plaster, through the lath.
Well, actually, it's a 10-degree. I went and looked at them. 10-degree variation between the no area and bees there.
So it's very noticeable on the FLIR. We've used this tool a dozen times in the past to successfully identify where a colony is. It is not one of those sort of guess and check, sort of we think it's here. It is very clear the size and shape. Like if it's a little tiny spot that's about the size of a basketball, it's going to be a small,
small active
colony in a corner or something. And when it lights up the entire wall cavity from floor to ceiling, you're going to be in for some work. And so this is the case where I cut open the wall and it was dead set on the hive. We spent the next 2 hours removing a 3-foot section out of the stud cavity of this guy's closet. And so we took the same thermal and walk into the apartment complex with nothing but drywall, and we see
nothing
Nothing.
Nothing anywhere. I found a spot where they have a small water leak on the floor near the wall, right? Because it's blue and it shows up as cold. So, like, probably from where it rains, it gets in. So I pointed that. I'm like, hey, this is something you should fix. But the rest of the wall, nothing. And the other unusual thing was that she kept her apartment super. It's just a single lady that lives there. And, man, that apartment was hot. Super hot.
It doesn't surprise me, right? Like the power energy costs will keep going up. I got the thing in the mail saying my power was 9.5 cents right now, and it was going to go up to like 15 cents next summer.
Yeah,
So
this was warmer than it was outside.
Yeah,
and I think that she was very comfortable in there, so that's fine. But yeah, I checked all the walls, all inside, checked the ceiling, went out back outside, checked near the door. So the door has like a spacer around it.
There's trim. There's like a 1 foot, that same 1 foot piece of runs around the sliding glass door on a balcony. Initially, we set up on a balcony. We set our scaffold up on a balcony because we thought we didn't know whether it was going to be to the left, so that you can imagine the balcony sliding glass door, and then right at the edge of the balcony where the sliding glass door is, there's a foot of trim, and then the brick exterior brick mold, the wall covering. It's just a facade, right? Brick facade starts.
Yeah.
So we didn't know, looking up at the top, if they were going to be in the cavity to the left, which is basically on top of the sliding glass door, or if it was cavity to the right, which would be on top of the brick. Yeah. And ultimately, based on where it looked like they were going, I guessed the cavity to the right, and that's what I cut out, and there's just absolutely nothing there. And then once you cut that out, you can easily see the left and right to the next adjacent cavities, and there was nothing there.
Yeah, so this will be a tough one. I'm supposed to go back in and put a hole in the wall and throw the scope in that and see if I can't peek down.
It's a nice thing about the endoscope is you only need about a half-inch hole. You can just punch a half-inch hole in something that's pretty easy to come back and patch, either with some patching, some drywall compound, just regular patching
compound, yeah.
Patching, not even drywall compound, just the stuff you do, nail holes and stuff, the pink stuff.
Right. And I'm not terribly looking forward to it. I'm really worried so we had one last year that was, the entrance was roughly second floor, and the hive was 20 feet above that, right?
Yeah.
20 feet up above that. And that was, to me, was very unpleasant. I don't like heights, and we were way the hell up there, and that was not a great one for me.
The reason why I don't think it's up is because there was just no evidence of the bees crawling north.
No, they crawled down.
They crawled down
over the lip.
Yeah.
So I don't know where in that lip they are. Maybe I'll take the FLIR out again just to go really scour the wall down below. Because maybe they're crawling down.
Because we had one where they came in the band board, the soffit area, and it was right at the transition at a balcony. But this was like a stair balcony, like in the stairwell.
Right. And
so we thought it was in a soffit area associated with the balcony, but the joist ran the wrong way. And so when I pulled the trim board off, there was just another joist that ran basically parallel to the outside trim. And then we realized that they're actually in the ceiling of the same balcony. So we actually they were almost the same location, but they actually went in on the wall to our left, but then crawled around a corner and actually inhabited like underneath the floor, in the ceiling.
Yeah, if we would let go, or if they had not noticed it, that had the potential of becoming a really big hive because they had a lot of space to expand into.
Yeah, there was really, because it was all exterior stairwell, it was basically uninsulated and just ran for like the next, probably 8 feet.
Yeah. So this one I'm not looking forward to. And then we did another one.
Well, you also got that photo of the one in the column that we declined. The stone column.
It was a stone column, like that had a wooden ceiling support for a patio on it, and I thought for certain, because this time of year I get so many calls for yellow jackets. I had one really close, less than 5 minutes away, that swore it was honeybees, yellow jackets, and
so many yellow jackets.
So many yellow jackets this time of year, and this one was, I swear it was going to be yellow jackets, and it's in the square, I guess square stone, empty pillar, and they're honeybee. And she was a little old, confused lady. She had already plugged one hole, and swore that they're honeybees. And I got there, and sure enough, they're honeybees. I don't know how they'll ever survive winter in that.
So I think this is they used like a 16-inch square hollow cement block to form the base, and then at the bottoms of those they've got weep holes so that if there gets any water in there they can drain out. And so they probably just in through the weep hole, and then they had that cavity inside the block because it's only like one block. Like if you took like a 16-inch square block that was a hollow block that was like the size of the base, it's on the outside it was covered with a stone, either faux or not, but point is that was about the dimensions for the inside.
Yeah, and that one I told her no, wait till spring and close it up. But that's one probably two. That's a step further than what Steve and I have, probably what we've done before. But that requires. She also balked at like $50 for me to come out. To take a look at it.
The other issue there was there are some customers that understand the cost associated with the cutouts, and there are other customers that they don't. It's really hard for them to comprehend that this is going to cost them several $100s to get done, and it's always an interesting discussion.
Yeah, so I told her close it up for spring, and they weren't bothering her anyway, even though she promised that they were.
I think that about wraps it up for this episode. We appreciate everybody listening. Once again, we've got a Patreon if you want to support. If you've got any questions, leave them in the show notes or jump on the Discord.
You can also email us at beekeepingbuddies@gmail.com if you have questions. We have not gotten any emails there other than the normal spam ones.
Oh, but our podcaster people did say that we have released many more episodes than the average people that they have tendency to carry.
Yep.
And they would like us to do things.
Yeah, they'd like us to add advertising to this, but one, I don't love advertising, and two, I don't think as a listener I would love advertising either. So we're going to try to keep this ad-free for the foreseeable future. Maybe I'll probably be eating crow on this one day, especially if we get huge and
get huge.
It picks up by
thousands of listeners instead of just hundreds.
Yeah, watch Rogan pick us up.
I don't know about that, bud.
Amazing. It would be amazing. But
it'd
no,
be good.
I don't. Not a big fan of advertising. And the other one was like a auto feed option there. So currently, no, we're not doing that. We're still supporting this Riverview Road apiary, which is my apiary. Pays for our bills for this, and we just do this out of the goodness of our hearts. And
we like getting together, talking about bees.
Yeah, and getting together. Yeah, being buddies.
So go find your buddy. Go work some bees. Thanks for listening.